I just got it. I get jokes. Wes Anderson's signature visual style, painterly, immaculately composed, linear-framed, favoring wide shots and long takes, is so perfectly suited to animation it's amazing he only did it one time before this in The Fantastic Mr. Fox. But whereas that film felt more like a Wes Anderson movie incidentally transported into the setting and talking animal bodies of a kidlit adaptation, Isle of Dogs feels more ambitious, but almost as though said ambitions were to be more traditional. Now that's not to say that it's not an incredibly strange film, how can it not be with this creative team, but it's almost strange precisely because it feels like Anderson is trying to actively see if his cherished toolkit of soft-spoken detachment, handmade artifice, out-of-nowhere gut punches, glib irony, and jokes that take several extra beats to land can be used to assemble something like a normal animated family comedy, i.e. a quick-moving romp in which precocious children and celebrity-voiced animals triumph over scheming grown-ups through convoluted chase and escape set pieces, shocking reveals, and big heartfelt moments. Now sure, plenty of stylistically specific filmmakers have stepped outside their wheelhouse to prove they could before, but what makes this interesting is that making something akin to, at least on paper, an Ice Age movie is so anathema to everything that makes Wes Anderson Wes Anderson, you'd be forgiven for assuming that it can't possibly fit together. And you'd be right, of course, but that's kind of the whole point, though I'm getting ahead of myself. Realized through stop-motion animation, like Fantastic Mr. Fox, that's both incredibly detailed but also artificial and animated looking on purpose for effect, the film is set in a sort of alt-universe version of Showa Dynasty Japan, wherein a corrupt political regime has conspired to exile all dogs to an offshore garbage island, which 6 months later has devolved into the canine Wes Anderson version of a post-apocalyptic hellscape where rival factions struggle to survive and/or maintain their sanity. One such makeshift pack, consisting of dogs voiced by Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum, and Bob Balaban, because this is a Wes Anderson movie, happened upon a 12-year-old boy named Atari who crashes a prop plane on the island on a mission to find and rescue his own dog, and they opt to accompany him, in the process discovering an even darker conspiracy of murder and potential genocide that it becomes their quest to stop, in a deliberately paced, conversational, partly dark, partly twee Wes Anderson kind of way. Now, apart from the animation, the big stylistic conceit here is that the dogs all speak American vernacular English, while the humans, with the exception of the occasional translator and a foreign exchange student played by Greta Gerwig, all speak unsubtitled Japanese, including Atari. The idea clearly is to use the presumed English language barrier to place the audience identification even more firmly with the dogs, rather than any of the humans that it otherwise would have been, but what's surprising is it manages to carry this gimmick off without trending unnecessarily into exoticism or Orientalism for the most part. I question the use of Gerwig's character in certain instances, while also questioning how they would have done those scenes otherwise. Okay, so I'm breaking in here because this aspect is becoming a thing, and I didn't really give it a fair hearing, I don't feel, in the original script, which I wrote literally 5 hours after watching the movie. So Wes Anderson has always been kind of difficult to levy criticism at when it comes to cultural stuff in his films, because almost everything he does is pitched in this deliberately unreal realm where everyone is basically this homunculus of whatever they're supposed to be. But unlike, say, early Quentin Tarantino, he's also relentlessly self-aware and self-critical, so there's always a sense of, well, yes, he tends to indulge in broad ethnic caricatures of, like, European and Asian characters. You probably also couldn't create a more scathing takedown of, like, a detached, pretentious, Wes Anderson-y white hipster than the kid from Rushmore, you know, who thinks he's megalomaniacally superior for no good reason and puts on weirdly robotic formal stage plays, so yeah, tough nut to crack in that respect. But then the whole South Park, we make fun of everyone so that makes it okay thing has always been a stupid-ass excuse, and that's sort of close to that, and also that one on the train in India was kind of indefensibly unfortunate in hindsight, and also his weakest movie in retrospect, yeah, so what I can speak to is that the gimmick of using a language other than the native language the film is being released in without subtitles as a way of creating distance and confusion between characters and placing the presumed target audience in an isolated and/or alien mindset is a perfectly valid stylistic choice that's been used to great effect in a lot of different films over the years, and I think it works very well here. But it also carries the inherent problem that if you misstep one way or the other, you risk the other culture and language in question coming off as villainized or demonized in some way, i.e., oh no, it's the bad guys making strange noises we don't understand. Oh good, we're back with the doggies who talk like familiar Western people we do understand, and all the stuff with Gerwig's character, it's right on the line. I don't think it's deliberate. The intent here feels very simple and pure, rooted in a sincere affection for particular strains of Japanese film culture, and I don't know how else you would have done any of it. But yeah, it's right on the line, and more importantly, I don't see a single problem with someone else looking at this particular movie, whether they think it was adorable as I did or not, in the context of the long history of movies where mostly Western heroes flee scary Asian bad guys and getting a sense of, this again, even if it's not my take because I'm a grown-up. Regardless, for the most part, we're with the dogs, and that stuff is magical. The Trash Island setting feels like nothing so much, again, as Anderson's setting himself up for a personal challenge of how to make his symmetrically ordered aesthetic work in a setting that's so completely antithetical to the idea of order itself, and it really is impressive how every single shot manages to create something genuinely beautiful despite being made almost entirely out of ugly or drably ordinary things. The dogs are realistically mangy and scruffy, the humans are all just realistic enough to look off, the garbage and decaying industrial landscapes all look suitably desiccated, and eventually there's even an entire pack of dogs meant to be understood as survivors of horrific medical experiments. This is more or less a family movie, but it's PG-13 for a reason. As ever, when it comes to Anderson's attempt at more heartfelt fare, you have to give it a long leash, no pun intended. As ever, he likes to keep things detached and ironic until a sharp turnaround into more sincere emotionality and earnest storytelling near the midpoint, often accompanied by a shift in who we might have perceived as the protagonist to be and what we might have thought the movie was about. That's definitely the case here, though since the target audience skews a little younger, the various twists and turnarounds are all a little easier to see coming than normal, not that I plan on giving them away. Suffice it to say, Isle of Dogs is a moving, extremely funny, and gloriously weird film in the way that only Anderson can deliver. Not for everyone, but absolutely worth a look just for the visuals alone. 3.5 stars, definitely recommended.